Hey folks, this is Rhykker with a Diablo and Overwatch news wrap-up video about the happenings of the week. This is my second weekly news video, and I'd like to keep doing these, but I won't make any promises yet, just in case there's no news to cover next week. Now, if you're just here for Overwatch, then you can skip ahead to the time frame that I'll put, let's say, here. So let's dive into Diablo news. We are now a week into the Necromancer release, and it seems most people are satisfied with their purchase. But there is some degree of, let's call it sloppiness. In essence, the release build was virtually the same as the latest PTR build, the latest build on the test server, the beta server. And this has left many people to feel like we currently still are on the test server. There's little bugs here and there that need ironing out, just that extra little bit of polish, and this is something that I've shown concern about before the release. That the Necromancer was being rushed out before it was ready. Now, a long time ago, before it was so easy for devs to forcibly push through a patch onto players, game developers actually had to polish their games before release because you didn't get a second chance. The product you released is what the customers got, point final. When patches were first being introduced to video games, most of the players probably didn't even install them. As patches became more and more prevalent and got pushed through more and more forcibly, they've allowed for bad practices in the industry. The mentality now of a publisher isn't, let's make sure the product is polished and ready for release, and then we'll patch after if we need to, should anything slip through the cracks. Now the mentality is, let's just get it good enough, and then on day one we can release a patch that fixes the other stuff we're still working on. Now, this isn't specific to Blizzard, this goes for all game companies in the industry, and I doubt this is even the fault of the Diablo team specifically. My understanding of the pipeline is that the devs are given an immovable deadline, and whether it's ready or not, it's get it as ready as you can, because we're putting this out there no matter what you say, no matter how much you insist that you want to fix this and that before release. I bet that the Diablo 3 devs wish they had another week, or however much time, to fix those little things that were remaining. Now, is it the end of the world that the Necromancer was released almost ready? No. Is the Necromancer good enough to have been released? Yes. But some people feel, hey, I'm not paying $15 to be your beta tester. I want a polished product. But what do you guys think? Do you think it's okay to release a game, a product, a DLC with the intention of patching it later? Now, if you have yet to purchase a Necromancer pack and you're still trying to make up your mind, do note that the current challenge rift of the week, this will be until, I believe, Monday, so you have a few more days now, is a Necromancer build. So, you get to try out the Necromancer for free. It's basically a demo, and I believe it's in fact a Bone Storm build, at least it is in the North America region. So if you have yet to try the Necro, you can play him for free. I encourage you to check that out. On to our next bit of news. Travis Day, one of the Diablo 3 senior developers, has been coming by people's streams on Twitch in the past few days/weeks. He came by our stream on Monday, and the two big takeaways I'll mention here is that there's a belt called Dainty's Binding. This is a Necromancer belt that doubles your toughness, in essence, if you have any enemies under the effects of your Decrepify curse. Travis has suggested that they're looking into changing that belt so that it'll apply to any curse, not just Decrepify, and this would really be a positive step towards opening up build diversity, because that item is quite essential to surviving higher, greater rifts. Something else we learned was that the Pestilence set was designed to be the speed farming set. Unfortunately, it's just not quite there yet, and Travis has some ideas in mind to rework it, to make it stronger, so that it can become the speed farming build. But apart from the little things we've learned here and there, I think the greater takeaway here is the fact that Travis has been going around from stream to stream, interacting with the community, and most importantly, listening to feedback. He'd come in and he would ask people questions. He'd want to hear what people have to say. And I think that's wonderful. It's always great when developers connect with their communities. It sends a message that they care. It lets the players feel like they're being listened to, like they have voices, like they matter. And when a developer indirectly says, I care about you, that helps us, the players, keep caring about the game. Next bit of Diablo news, we got our first official look at Season 11 via a new post on the Diablo 3 website. Season 11 exclusive rewards include a portrait and a cool flying dragon pet, and the conquests for this season don't seem bad at all. Doing a T10 rift in under 2 minutes is fun and pretty easy with a fully geared party and a lucky rift. And getting to Greater Rift 75 solo can be accomplished with any class by following my guide videos. And if you want to go for a third conquest, killing the bosses on T10 in under 20 minutes can be done relatively easily with a coordinated group. As for the free season sets, the Hadrig's gift sets at the start of the season, for the most part they're good. The Barbarian gets Wrath of the Wastes, allowing you to go for a nice Whirlwind build. The Crusader gets the Roland set, which is decent enough, but it won't be your endgame set. At least it's not a cons though. Demon Hunter gets Unhallowed Essence, which is great for speed farming and Greater Rift pushing. Monks get the Raymond set, that's your go-to endgame set for a monk. The Necromancer gets the Rothma pet set, which is at the very least a good farming set and possibly endgame viable. You can check out my White Walker army build guide, and I should have an updated Rothma build guide coming out soon. Witch Doctors get the Helltooth set. It's a strong endgame set, which would allow you to farm for Arakirs if you want to go that way, but Helltooth is strong in and of itself. Wizard gets Tal Rasha's, which is an integral part of the Lightning Wizard, again, best wizard build. So overall, I'd say it's basically just the Crusader that's getting shortchanged. This is just a really good season for Hadrig's gifts. I'll be updating my tier list for Season 11 as we get closer to Season 11, which again launches Thursday, July 20th. On to some controversial news. There was an exploit that was plaguing the leaderboards and the community this week, and it combined the powers of the Necromancer and the Demon Hunter. That's what you needed to get this exploit to work. So the Necromancer has a curse called Frailty, which makes a monster outright die if it drops below a certain fraction of its health. Now, the way in which the game makes the monsters die is by dealing a metric ass ton of damage to it. Literally, it deals the highest possible damage number that the game is able to compute. This way, regardless of the monster's health, it will outright die. We'll call this number a near infinite amount of damage. Just bear with me, let's not get pedantic here. Then we have the Demon Hunter power, marked for death, with the Grim Reaper rune, which deals 15% of the damage dealt to marked enemies to all enemies within 20 yards. Now, if you're following the math here, you already see what the exploit is. So the Demon Hunter and Necromancer duo go up to monsters, apply Mark for Death and Frailty to them, and once Frailty executes a monster, it deals 15% of a near infinite amount of damage to all nearby enemies. And 15% of near infinity is still basically infinity. Now, this is perhaps the greatest illustration as to why it was a good idea to not release the Necromancer at the start of a new season. I must admit that I questioned that decision, but this exploit has solidly convinced me that this was the right course of action. Using this exploit, groups managed to push Greater Rift levels far above the norm, and in doing so also managed to level up their legendary gems far above the norm. We're talking 140 plus legendary gems. So not only did this cause a problem with the leaderboards, it also has deeper ramifications. Cleaning up the leaderboards is easy, but then you have players that basically have permanent buffs. Now, Blizzard has reacted to all this. The exploit has been hotfixed as of the time of this video going live, hopefully. And community manager Tivalier posted a public statement in the forums. He basically says that the team anticipated some shenanigans, and so they put in some safety measures to mitigate any potential fallout, including delaying the start of Season 11 so that no season could be ruined by the exploits. And by ending the previous era, an era is basically a season for non-season players, by ending that era right before the Necromancer launched, that era as well was preserved. Now, hotfixes have resolved the exploit, and the new era leaderboards have been wiped. The end. Now, there was something missing from that message. Yes, it's great that the exploit was fixed and the leaderboards are being reset, but what about all those people running around with level 140 legendary gems now? The people who abused of this exploit to get their gems to previously unattainable levels. Do they just have a permanent advantage over other players now? Apparently, because no action is being taken against them. Now, people were calling for bans, and exploiting is bannable behavior. But I'm someone who tries to be fair. I try to play devil's advocate. And just like in court, I feel that things need to be proved beyond a shadow of doubt. Because I wouldn't want someone to have their account taken away from them, all their money and time investment taken away from them, if they didn't recognize that what was going on was an exploit. So if you're going to give out bans, who are you going to ban? Are we going to ban the Necromancer player? He would likely be running the Frailty curse anyway. It's a really strong curse to use in groups. He's not doing something that he wouldn't otherwise be doing. How could he help if the Demon Hunter in his party is applying Mark for Death? And what about the other people in the party? Those who aren't the Necro or the Demon Hunter? Are we gonna ban them? They got to level up their gems, but they didn't directly partake in the exploit. Now, I'd argue that the vast majority of the people running around with level 140 gems knew exactly what they were doing. They knew they'd found an exploit, they knew that they were putting together a team to abuse the hell out of that exploit, and they knew they were running the risk of getting banned, and fuck those guys. But I have to give the benefit of the doubt. There could be players mixed up in this who could just be naive. I could see a scenario whereby some dude playing a support barb gets pulled into a game by one of his friends. They're about to open up a GR 135 and he's like, whoa, you sure about that? And his friend says, yeah man, we found this new powerful combo. And the barb is now running super high grade riffs with them without even really understanding what's going on. Again, I'm sure these people are in the minority, but they don't deserve to have their accounts taken away from them because of other dickbags. So I could understand why Blizzard isn't banning. However, there is something called a rollback that has been done before. A rollback takes an account and basically brings it back to a previous save game. So you can roll back accounts to a few days prior to the exploit, and the person has only lost those days of progress, in essence. Rollbacks, in this case, I believe are entirely fair, even to players who didn't knowingly abuse of the exploit. If someone robs a bank and then gives you the stolen money, you don't deserve to go to jail. But you also don't get to keep the money. Now, I don't know if it's as easy as just hitting Control F, level 140 gems, and just rolling back all these accounts, but it seems rollbacks should be something that should be feasible to do in this case, and it seems to be what's most fair for everyone. Bans could even be given out for some cases, but at the very least rollbacks. Not only because we now have players who have a permanent advantage, but also because of the precedent that Blizzard is setting here. The next time an exploit comes around, rather than fear losing their accounts, players will fear missing out on the opportunity to gain a permanent advantage. Wiping the leaderboards is not punishment. It's just mopping up the crime scene. With zero repercussions in this instance, Blizzard is basically condoning this behavior. And that's bad for the health of the community. What do you guys think? Now, the hotfix for the exploit also included some changes to other things, including the Inaria set and the Rothma set. So for the Inaria set, the 6-piece bonus will now trigger effects less frequently. In other words, for the Bone Storm build, Mirane will be proccing or smiting less often. Now, as of the recording of this video, the hotfix has not yet gone live, but by the time this video goes up on YouTube, it will have gone live. So check back in the future, I'll edit the video description with some word on how badly the build has been impacted. The question is, will Bone Storm still reign supreme on the Necro leaderboards, or has this fun, innovative build been murdered? Now, some unexpected changes happened with the Rothma set. Basically, the 6-piece bonus now grants its full damage bonus when you have only 4 skeletal mages up, as opposed to needing to have all 10 up. Any mages you summon above the initial 4 just give you more mages. With the Circle of Neluge ring, you can summon mages 2 at a time, so this means with just 2 casts of Skeletal Mage, you are benefiting from your full 6-piece set bonus. Now, in my review of the Necromancer pack, I gave an extended discussion on what I perceive to be the issue with Skeletal Mage. You can check out the full video here, and while I'm doing my argument a terrible disservice by condensing it into one sentence, the skinny of it is that it is fun to push a button to gain something, it is not fun to push a button to avoid losing something. Previously, you would be summoning mages all the time to avoid losing your 6-piece buff. This change certainly helps. I have yet to have a chance to test out Rothmas, but from a pure theory perspective, knowing that I only need to have 4 mages out to be dealing my full damage means that any mages I summon above the first 4 will just feel like a bonus, like gaining something. So while I'm not sure if this completely resolves the issue with skeletal mages, it's definitely a step in the right direction. But if you've had a chance to try it out, leave a comment with your thoughts. Another bit of Diablo news. Blizzard released a comic on the Necromancer. Gives us some little backstory on our female Necromancer protagonist. I love that Blizzard did this, and the artwork in the comic was really nice, but the script did feel lacking for me. It left me with more questions than answers, and I feel like there wasn't a whole lot of content in there. Now, I won't spoil it, but there's something you may have missed on the last page, something with very dark implications. And it's probably the most interesting thing in the comic. If you think you figured it out, leave a comment. Now, one tidbit we learned thanks to this comic is that on the Facebook page where it was posted, we heard from the Diablo team, quote, "We've seen lots of feedback about the portraits, and we're passing it on to the team for review." In other words, guys, we might have those hideous Necromancer in-game portraits replaced with proper portraits. And lastly, for Diablo news, we have another Necromancer release-themed comic, but this one is humorous and not created by Blizzard. Now, just because I'm a fan of Diablo doesn't mean I won't laugh at jokes that take the piss out of it, and this comic's punchline was savage. You can go to nerfnow.com to check out more of the artist's work. I'll have the link below in the description. Okay, on to Overwatch news. This will be a quick section this week since our 2 Overwatch videos already covered the big stuff. Doomfist has come. Giggity? On Tuesday, we got an official Doomfist teaser. We covered that in this video here. And on Thursday, Doomfist was officially revealed and released on the test server. PC players can go play him right now. Now, one thing really noteworthy about the release is how abruptly the reveal happened. We all remember that Sombra's reveal took entirely too long. It was really drawn out, but then we had Orisa's tease that only lasted about 10 days, I believe. And that seemed like the perfect amount of time. We were excited about the teasers, the hype built up, and it didn't stretch on for too long. But for Doomfist, we got the teaser on the Tuesday, and then just a couple days later, we got the release. It seems that for such a hyped character, Blizzard gave Doomfist very little fanfare, as my mod the Argonaut puts it. And I wonder if the reason was so that we wouldn't get disappointed when we realized that Doomfist isn't being voiced by Terry Crews. I know a lot of people were disappointed by this, but I wonder how many more would have been disappointed if we would have been hyped for Terry Crews for days and days. I know we've been hyped for months about that, but it's not been something that's been like every day we're super waiting for Terry Crews as Doomfist. Now, I would have loved to have Terry Crews voice a hero, but I do have to admit that his voice does not quite fit this incarnation of Doomfist that Blizzard chose to go with. I'm not sure how Terry is with accents, but Doomfist clearly needed a Nigerian accent, a believable one. Terry would also bring an energy to the role that I think wouldn't fit this kind of character, this sort of like Bane villain. I think the voice actor they went with is doing a great job. But I do hope that Terry got to record something, some kind of voice lines when he visited Blizzard offices. Even if it's just a character in an animated short, I want some form of Terry Crews in Overwatch. Now, Terry is a busy actor, and the voice actors that Blizzard picks tend to be people that have the flexibility of being able to come by and record new voice lines, like when there's new events or new characters added, so new interactions to record, that kind of thing. I don't know that Terry Crews would have the availability that Blizzard wants to be a full-fledged hero. Now, along with the Doomfist reveal, Blizzard did something completely new. They released a short anime rather than an animated short. 2D versus 3D. If you haven't seen that yet, definitely go check that out. It's super cool. Link will be in the description. It gave us great insight into Doomfist's character, showed some awesome fight scenes, and really made Doomfist seem like a badass. I mean, he had the speed, strength, reflexes, and cunning to predict where Tracer would be and tear off and crush her chronal accelerator. He also punched his way out of his prison cell without his Doomfist, and in case it wasn't obvious, he also beat up all those OR-15s at Numbani Airport before getting back his Doomfist. But anyway, back to the animation, Blizzard actually outsourced it to Wolf Smoke Studio, a small animation studio based in Shanghai. And it was a year ago that the studio actually hinted that they were interested in making an Overwatch anime. Seems like Blizzard was paying attention, saw the studio's mock-ups, and made some dreams come true. Now, one thing I'm wondering is if this is the start of Season 2 of the animated shorts. Blizzard has said that all the animated shorts we've gotten so far consisted of Season 1, with Season 2 scheduled to start this year. If this kicked off Season 2, does that mean that all of Season 2 will consist of anime? Or will we get some traditional 3D animated shorts? Let me know what you think. Do you like this anime style? Do you want to see more 2D animations, or do you prefer 3D? Now, there's one apparent inconsistency we see in the anime. Doomfist is punching the wall with his right hand, but his right arm is supposed to be a cybernetic prosthetic. We know from the lore that he lost his arm before he was imprisoned. So this was either an oops from the creators, or he has a very convincing prosthetic that he swaps out at some point for his insanely intimidating crazy robot prosthetic. I suppose if it is prosthetic, it would explain how he's able to punch his way out of his jail cell. Now, one last thing that I'd like to mention is that it's really interesting that Winston is the one who ultimately defeated Doomfist, and in the anime we see how. By engaging his ultimate, in which Winston effectively flies into an absolute rage and goes apeshit. Now, think about Doomfist's philosophy. Conflict strengthens humanity. Now, ignoring the fact that Winston isn't human, isn't Winston proving Doomfist's philosophy to be true? That conflict brings out the strongest side of Winston? It really makes you question, who truly won that fight? Winston. It was Winston. Doomfist went to jail. But the symbolic victory goes to Doomfist. And that wraps up this video. Drop a comment with your thoughts on any and all of the stories we've covered this week. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Twitch and Patreon supporters for making these videos possible. If you enjoyed this video, please share it, check out these other videos, and subscribe to join Rhykker's Raiders for more Diablo and Overwatch content.